everybody, and welcome to this April 12th edition, 2017, of the Little Guys Home Technology live stream podcast. I'm David.
And I'm Evie.
And we'd like to welcome your comments and questions and things along the way, if you're so inclined. This is ring day for the Chicago World Series champion Chicago Cubs. I thought I'd throw that in there. I know you don't care, but it aggravates probably half the listeners, but whatever. All right. So Little Guys, 191st and LaGrange Road in Mokina, where Mokina meets I-80. Easy to get to, fun store, really cool place, if I do say so myself, and a place you can see a lot of the new technology and a lot of the cool things. Today we're gonna talk about whether you're building a new home or remodeling or adding an addition, those kind of things to think about, things to pay attention to and to be prepared for. So we'll get to that. The Little Guys podcast is sponsored by AudioQuest, Integra, and
Golden Ear.
There you go. 3 companies who are absolutely dedicated to making sure that you get high performance audio and the best sound possible. I mean, that is the focus of those 3 guys. So it was really nice of them to team up and help us out. So, and their products and concepts are on display at the store as well. By the way, you can email us anytime at info@thelittleguys.com. The store is open Monday through Thursday from 10 until 6, Friday and Saturday 10 to 5, closed on Sundays. And come on by, right?
Right. I mean, for anyone who hasn't been to our store before, it's not just a bunch of boxes on the shelves. Everything is set up and working, and you can envision what it would be like in your own home. I mean, the full theater setup and 2-channel room or stereo, I suppose we're supposed to say, room where you can actually hear what you're thinking about buying.
Yeah. No, it's. And there's theater set up with Dolby Atmos. There's the latest HDR and 4K Blu-ray for you to experience. The premium sets from video displays or televisions from Sony and LG are on display for you to check out, as well as projectors from Sony and Epson. A lot of cool stuff, a lot of fun stuff. A lot of the control concepts are easier to not have to imagine. You can actually see them and how they interact with them and see how they work.
And network as well. I think Tom set up a really good display that explains what pieces you need for your network and how to get the signal to every part of the home.
And I talked to 4 customers in the last 5 days or 6 days who we did networks for. We're so excited. So I mean,
you were going to swear, weren't you?
Yeah, I was going to swear. I was, and I could actually, because it's a podcast, right? I'm not on the radio, but that's all right. It doesn't happen often that on air, but whatever. They're so excited about their networks. 2 of whom, said the kids are thrilled that everything's working the way it's supposed to work, and they're able to play their PlayStations and play their games, and their phones are quick now, and everything's working the way it's supposed to be. And the other, so that was a huge relief to the parents, obviously.
Right.
And the other 2 just said that just everything they do seems to just be smoother and quicker, and just totally in love with the network changes we made. The pack edge routers and the Ubiquity access points and the other concepts and the overall design of the network. So, and I think that's a good place to start. So if you're building a new home, if you're adding an addition, if you're remodeling an existing home, be prepared. I mean, technology evolves so quickly. Things happen. Change takes place so fast.
Right, and I don't think you should depend on the builder who says, "Oh yeah, we'll wire up for," because they wire. First of all, they wire for telephone, which a lot of people don't even have landlines anymore, and they wire a coax to a couple places that maybe you'll have a TV. You need way more than that.
Yeah, you need to create an infrastructure, right? So there's a lot of things to consider. To the builder, it's another thing he has to worry about. So he has his handyman, the guy who does kind of the other things around the house, the low voltage stuff around the house. He has him, say, yeah, we can do that. In a lot of cases, and in those cases, you are typically wired to the wrong location or the wrong kind of wires.
Wrong kind of wires, and And when do you find out?
Yeah.
After the house is built, everything's done, and you start trying to hook things up, and things aren't working.
Yeah, and that costs more money to get everything done right. So just be aware of it. That's all. Just pay attention to it. Wireless is not the solution overall. There needs to be wires. There needs to be an infrastructure.
Right.
And
you will access things wirelessly, but in order to do that, you need to have a wired solution in place.
you got it. And I cannot stress how important having network wires going to every TV location, network wires going to every component location, network wires going to any computer locations, anywhere there's going to be any kind of network device. Think about it. Whether it's the refrigerator, whether it's the door locks. There's a lot of things that there at least needs to be extremely strong Wi-Fi for, which means getting a wire to an access point somewhere, and that's a strategic plan. That's not here, this should be okay. You read the signal, you figure out what's going on in the house, and then you make a decision on where those things should be located for maximum performance. And not any difference than we've been doing all these years with audio and video, maximizing the performance, using the right components, putting better wires in, better cables in. It's the same concept. But it's not as glamorous. That's for sure, because it's behind the scenes network infrastructure. But it is really critical to the enjoyment of all the things we're going to talk about over the next 15, 20 minutes. Having that network in place and the infrastructure set up correctly. It really is a big deal, and it really is important. And there's a million cheap options out there, some of which may actually sort of work okay for now, but then and then you find out with you just got the new Xbox, and guess what? If you're playing Xbox games with other people who are playing interacting with other Xboxers. Is that what you call them?
I guess.
I mean, Muhammad Ali was an Xboxer, but I don't know what the right word is. But other Xboxers, then some of the routers don't allow the signal to pass, and Microsoft has no solution, right? And the router company certainly doesn't have a solution. If Microsoft couldn't figure it out, the router company sure can't figure it out. I mean, there's lots of little things to be aware of and pay attention to. So the network is the key. I really think we can't emphasize it enough. Focus on the network. Make sure the right components are in place. The thing that the AT&T gives you and the box that Comcast gives you and those kind of things really aren't good enough.
No, absolutely not.
Do they function as they're supposed to? Probably as good as they possibly can. But they really don't let you do the things that correctly, and they don't let your system operate as efficiently as it should. So, big deal. Make sure the network is correct. And again, that's as simple as making sure wires are in the right places. You don't have to put the network components in, the day you move in if you don't want to. I mean, you could use the cheap stuff in the meantime, or the stuff that Comcast gives you in the meantime. But if the wires are in place to do it correctly, and you realize that the time has come to make a change,
right? You save yourself a lot of money and aggravation over the long run. I would suggest if you're building a house, they've already broken ground, or you're about to, or even if you're doing an addition, and the builder says, we're using my guy, and that's it, which happens in a lot of cases. We're using my company, to wire this house, and that's it. You need to sit down with them and discuss what's being installed and where. I mean, maybe you are going to have a refrigerator that needs an internet connection. Likely, we all will eventually. And it's not that you care if the refrigerator says you're out of milk, but they can do self-diagnostics. And wouldn't it be better to find out that your refrigerator was about to fail a week before you left town instead of when you get back and all the food is ruined? I mean,
and so often people are uncomfortable or don't feel sure of themselves in having that discussion with the builder until they come in and sit down with us. Come in and sit down with us, sit down with our system designers, and let's go over the possibilities and the options. Let's find out about your lifestyle. How do you live? What would you like to be able to do? What are the things that you might want to do in the future? Maybe some things are just completely irrelevant to you. Lighting, right? Lighting is a perfect example. Maybe you don't care at all. Maybe you're totally satisfied with 6 light switches on in the living room and flicking up and down each one of them or whatever. Maybe you don't even want to dim them. And that's okay.
Maybe you only want one light switch that just turns everything either on or off.
Right. But and it's just priorities for individuals. But let's find out what it is you'd consider doing, you'd like to do, you want the possibility of doing, and we'll lay out those options for you, and let's discuss what it takes to get those things done correctly. And we can be your consultants. We can be your experts that have the answers to those things and can just steer you in the right direction and help you ask the right questions, and then we'll analyze the answers with you if you want to. I mean, we're happy to do some of that stuff. We're not going to draw out your system and lay out the whole design and spend 8 hours calculating what it is without getting paid for it at some point.
Right.
But we're happy to do the initial consultation and have the discussion and go over the things and figure out what's going on. So,
and you need to sort of go through room by room, and it's hard to do. We did it. We did an addition to our house, which was really basically 2 rooms, but every day it was like, well, okay, you got to decide on this because we're doing it tomorrow.
Right.
That kind of thing. And also you have to decide where things are going to go. Do you want sound in your kitchen? Do you want video in your kitchen? Do you want a TV in there? Do you have an open floor plan where maybe the family room and the kitchen are attached? Maybe you could put a big TV in the family room and have it on an articulating bracket so that you can watch it from the kitchen. But there's things you have to think about in that case. Where's the electrical outlet? Do you want the electrical outlet where it typically goes? It's like a foot off of the floor. No, if you're going to put that TV on a wall, you need an outlet up higher where the TV is going to go. And actually, it would be a good idea to have one up high and one down low because you're usually going to have other equipment attached to it as well. What things are you going to connect things to the internet in this room? Do you want sound coming from? Are you going to have a big system? Do you want sound coming from a system? Or do you want background sound? You want sound that's going to go throughout the house that maybe is not involved with the system. The whole surround system might be separate from music you have through your house. I mean, there's just a zillion things to consider. Do you want sound in the bathroom? I know I do. I mean, that's my recording studio. Thank God we don't record. But, I love music in the bathroom when I'm taking a shower in the morning. Some people have TVs in their bathrooms. And even if you're not listening to music, maybe you're listening to the radio, a news program or sports talk radio, or there's just so many things you have to consider. You have to go room by room. And even as you're doing that, you have to decide sort of where the furniture is going to go before you decide where you're going to put something on a wall.
So there's basic categories, right? We know the network infrastructure needs to be there. There's control. How am I going to control all the different things in my house? Am I going to use a central control system that does all of the different things we're about to talk about, from lighting to HVAC to security to doorbells to audio distributed throughout the house to video distributed throughout the house? Am I going to have a control system that does that I can access whether it's a touch panel on the wall or whether it's my iPads or my tablets of any kind, my phone, my handheld remote? How am I going to do all those things, right? So there's control that has to be considered, right? And what so often happens is people start out with control for a single system and maybe one light switch in the room or 2 light switches, and then they kind of like it, and it's like, well, why can't the rest of my stuff do this? Why can't I have the rest of my house, the lighting and all the other things do that? And it can. So control is an absolute priority and consideration. And again, it's not right or wrong. It's up to the individual or whatever. And there's different levels of control, and there's different things you can do. So we'll go over that with you. We'll show you the different options. We'll explain to you how they work. We can actually demonstrate them to you. There's a lot of commercials on now, a lot of television commercials. There's a lot of ads about automation. Right?
Yes.
That's the key word, is automation. And they always show like a Star Trek thing, talking to the computer and telling them what you want. But really, the way that the verbal automation works at this point, the way that control Alexa and the rest, the Google thing, the way they work now is you don't tell them what you want, really. You need to tell them what they want to hear to get to the end result of what you're sort of trying to do. Right, so they're a little bit limited, but we'll show you some of that stuff. We'll show you how that works and what you can do and what you can't do, and we'll take you through the steps and we'll make sense out of it, and we'll do it in terms that are easily understandable. You don't have to be a computer engineer or a rocket scientist to grasp the concepts, and you decide what's important to you and what isn't. That's all. I mean, and that's kind of where control comes into play for the whole house. Lighting is a ever expanding, ever changing thing. I mean, it's being done very simply now. It's really a matter. In the old days, you had these big control panels, and it's not you still couldn't have that if you wanted it to go to that level. But for the most part, what people are doing is using very simple control systems from the specific manufacturers, whether it's Control 4, Savant, or Lutron, however the lighting is going to be in the house, and have this nice lighting system throughout the house. Replace the light switches with dimmers. And you can still have switches where you want switches, but in other places you can have dimmers. And then those things talk to each other. And then you can create scenes, and you can have a single touch button do multiple switches in multiple settings. We've mentioned this before on there. Our bathroom is wired completely wrong, from my perspective. It is absolutely 100% wrong. You literally hit 1, 2, 3, 4, a minimum of 5 light switches, not counting the fan. You hit a minimum of 5 light switches when you go into the room in the morning to get ready to take a shower. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, it makes no sense at all. Why are maybe because the plumber's pipes always leak, but why are we haven't changed it? I have no idea. But the reality is, it should be. It should be simple. It should be easy. And especially if you're building that home now, or engineering or designing an addition, or remodeling a part of the house, now's the time. Let's get together. We'll sit down. We'll go over it and figure it out. But lighting is a huge part of what we do, and what people seem to love a lot. And they really love that part of it. HVAC, right? So the thermostat, which we've all, taken for granted all these years. And there are some systems out there now that kind of learn your patterns.
Yes.
Right? They're near impossible to program, if they can even be programmed, but they learn your patterns. There's that kind of thermostat control. But there's also ones where you can actually set a schedule, set a program, take out your phone from wherever you're at, and you have a Wi-Fi connection, and dial in and do settings and do changes. Make sure it's where you thought it was, or where thought it was going to be.
Now, there are thermostats you can get at the hardware store right now that are programmable.
Yeah.
$34.99. There's no one on earth that can program them. Right. I mean, I don't know how many people have a thermostat in their house. I've got 3 thermostats in my house that I cannot program at all. But, then you do what you have to do. You turn it up, turn it down, switch to cool, switch to heat. It would be wonderful and an energy saver, actually, to be able to set my system so that when I leave for work in the morning, say it's summer, all right, because it's coming, and so knock the temperature back up to 80 degrees. And then, half an hour before I get home, knock it back down to 72. Same thing with the heat, so that you're not even thinking about it. You're not putting any effort into it, but you're conserving energy, which in turn, saves you some money.
The good news is that I put a note on Tom's desk to order us the new thermostats, by the way. So, all right.
David's not even allowed to touch a thermostat at our house.
I don't. That's beyond my capability. All right. So HVAC programming, and you can do it from home, or you can do it when you're at the office, or you're in the car on the way home, or pull over and stop, park, and then do it. But you can do it from the car. You can do it from the office. I mean, you can actually do these things from
can do it from
remote
Paris.
Locations. There you go. Security. Now, we don't actually do the alarms themselves. We leave that to the alarm guys. They should only leave our stuff to us, but we leave the alarms to the alarm guys. And but we can integrate and control the alarm systems.
Right.
They can integrate into our control systems, and then cameras. We obviously do ourselves, and we put in cameras throughout, for safety and frankly peace of mind. Throughout the house, the exterior of the house, wherever you want them. We'll put in the cameras, and there's lots of different kinds of cameras, and it blows me away the quality of the picture on a camera that's $200 to $400. That same quality and performance, well, it wasn't even available back then, but at anywhere close in comparable performance 10 years ago was $1,500 to $2,000.
Yes.
Right, and they've gotten so reasonable and so affordable. And whether you record that information onto a network video recorder that's there for a week or a month or 6 months or as long as you want, and have a record of it, or whether you just want to be able to watch it when you want to watch it, camera systems huge part of what we do, and a huge consideration again when you're building a house or remodeling, and now's the time. Doorbells. I know that sounds silly, but what kind of doorbell? Do you want just a doorbell that rings and the doorbell rings and that's fine? Do you want it to play through your audio system and interrupt your audio, the music for a second, and let it play through the speakers? Do you want to be able to distinguish the difference between the front doorbell and the back doorbell ring, so you know where somebody is by having two different chimes, two different rings? Do you want to be able to see them? You want to be able to actually see that person and see who's at the door, and be able to talk to them and communicate with them? There's a lot of possibilities, a lot of different ways that can work, and doorbells have become a big deal. It's become more important and more important. Again, it's so easy to do it in the first place, and it's a pain in the neck to do it afterwards.
Yeah, if the doorbell in your house stops working, nobody will touch it. Right. It's like, trying to rewire that thing is completely impossible.
And then the thing that's nearest and dearest to our heart, of course, is audio, is sound. Obviously, you're more of a music person than I am, but still having music on and playing in the background, and whether it's music or talk radio or whatever the heck it is, being able to control it, being able to have it distributed throughout the house, so that when I go out onto the deck and I'm barbecuing, and then I come back into the kitchen and I'm working in there for a little while, and then I go over when we're done and sit down in the dining room, and if I want that to kind of continue and be in all those places, how am I doing it? Do I have a radio propped up, holding the window open, blasting outside, or do I have it?
He's done that in the past.
Do I have it, distributed correctly through my outdoor system and the rest of it, which is how we're doing it now, and have it playing throughout the different places? There's so many good options, so many good ways to do that. Distributing audio throughout the house has also become more precise, simpler to deal with, and a lot of good choices. And streaming music has made it even better.
Right, and something we found out just through using is, say you have Spotify, and it's on your TV, so you're playing it in your system, and you have it on your phone, and you're playing it in your car. I have a lesson today, that's what I was thinking about it. Or then you're in the kitchen, and you don't have that, or you're in the backyard, you don't have that, and you're just like, well, why can't I have that? So that with a control system, you can have it in all the rooms and in
anywhere you
outside.
want. I mean, literally anywhere.
But it really is something you don't think about. So, like, maybe you fall in love with this app. Say it's Spotify. Say it's TuneIn Radio, whatever. And suddenly you can't have it in the place you are. It's very frustrating, and it's something you need to think about ahead of time.
For sure, and we'll take you through that process. And the outdoor systems have become a huge part of what we do. So how are we going to blend in with the new remodel or the new home? What are we going to do outside? How are the decks going to be wired for sound and network and maybe video too? We'll get to video in a minute, but maybe video too. But how do you want that distributed? How are you going to use the backyard? Maybe you never go outside, so it doesn't matter. But at least consider the possibilities and what's happening.
And of course, now your head's exploding. I got to think about the outside. I can barely get the inside done. If we could just wire to the outside so that you have that opportunity later on, when you start getting landscaping in and things like that, and you recover a little bit from the house. As long as everything is wired to begin that process outside, you can take your time and start it whenever you feel comfortable.
There's just so many different cool things you can do outdoors nowadays with full-blown outdoor televisions. And they've become so reasonable relative to what they were, again, just a few short years ago or whatever. They've become super reasonable, very simple. These cases that go around indoor TVs, or putting an indoor TV outside. It's like dropping the toaster in the bathtub. I mean, it's not a smart idea, okay? It's not something you should focus on. Putting an indoor TV outside really does put you in an unsafe place. I mean, going to hit the on button could be a problem. You don't know. Did water get in? Did stuff seep into the thing? Did some animal burrow itself into the exhaust part of the TV?
It's a little beehive in there.
You just don't know. There's a lot of safety considerations besides the performance considerations. Indoor TVs aren't designed bright enough to really be used outside
That's
correctly.
True.
There is a difference between an indoor and an outdoor television. And there's different levels of outdoor. There's full-blown outdoor TVs you could stick on a post and they can be uncovered and they can be sitting in your backyard year-round and never worry about snow or rain or anything, never even have to think about it. There's ones that work better under eaves or under roof, let's say, in a gazebo-type thing. They don't call them gazebos anymore. What do they call them? Anyway, there's different ways to do those. There's different levels of outdoor tolerance, televisions, but they've all become super affordable.
Yes.
No longer extreme, and to stick an indoor TV outside, I know there's people that have done it, and we've all been there or whatever. But the reality is, it's not the right thing to do.
Right. I mean, it's one thing to take it out for a certain event and take it back in.
Yeah.
But you cannot leave a regular.
And now you can get fold up. If you want to if you're going to do something temporary, get a projector, and if you're doing it at night, get a projector, throw it on a stand, do a fold up screen or they literally fold up, and you can put them away or whatever. The 100-inch fold up screens are $400 or something, $450, $500, $300, $500. They're in that. They're super affordable for the screen itself. And then you get a decent projector for $1,500 to $3,000 and show a good image on the screen. And there's a lot of good options. There's a lot of cool ways to do that stuff.
It's something else you need to consider about the house you're building. A lot of people build with unfinished basements. Sometimes they build with a finished basement. But so you're thinking that someday, a lot of people do this now, someday I'd like to have a home theater in the basement. I'd like a projector, big screen, the seating, the works. Get the electrical and the wiring into the ceiling.
Yep.
Even if it's 10 years away from what you're going to do, you get some electrical up there.
At the very least, make it so that you can access those areas.
Right. You can put a chase in. Right. There's
a lot of different ways to do it. I mean, it's just a really good idea. And one of the other things that you have to decide is, how am I going to distribute video throughout my house? Am I going to have all my cable boxes in the basement and then just distribute that video throughout the house? Am I going to have just a couple of cable boxes with lots of TVs and be able to watch from those cable boxes to specific televisions at any given time? I can think of one home that we're working on now that has 3 televisions in the outdoor room, or the Four Seasons room. Right, there's 3 TVs in that room, but he wants to be able to watch anything on any of the 3 TVs and then pick which audio he's listening to by touching a button, which is cool. I mean, it's simple. To touch the buttons, but then how do we make that work from behind the scenes? And I don't mean just make and still not compromise on the performance of the video that we're sending to those TVs. How do we tie that remotely located equipment into the rest of the system? How is that how does that work? How do we distribute the video? Same thing as how do we distribute the audio? There's considerations. Maybe you're just going to have a cable box at every TV location.
Right.
Or maybe, even if it's not right where the TV is, maybe it'll be in the closet in that room. Those are things you need to consider, and then it needs to be wired correctly.
Right.
And we still show up at homes too late, and the builders run a coaxial to where the TV is. Now, once in a while, they'll run a network wire there too, but for the most part, from the basement, they run a coax up to that spot.
Right.
Well, guess what? With the exception of some rare circumstances, your cable box isn't going on top of the TV or behind the TV. It's typically going somewhere where your components are or other pieces are. Plus, how am I getting my Blu-ray to the TV? How am I getting my, other Apple TV or Roku or whatever other devices you have? How am I getting that there? How do I get my TiVo to, display on there? There's a lot of considerations. So how you distribute video, how you're going to distribute video, again, super, super big deal to figure out in advance. Not that complicated.
Right.
But let's lay out the different options and figure out what makes sense for you.
And so this is your attitude that you don't want to see anything. You want it to all be in a closet in the basement somewhere. You're building the house. Where where is that going to go? Is the room that you're building for that sufficient? And does it have enough ventilation, or do you have some cooling options in there? Because the equipment gets warm, and you add a ton of it in there, it's going to get really warm. And
it affects the life of the equipment, yes, for sure. And not only that, is the electrical that's in that room, is that circuit dedicated to that purpose or whatever, or did the guy tie it in with the sump pump? We had a case on the north side where the builder put in ground fault outlets in the sump pump room, and that's where all the satellite equipment was going to be located. Well, guess what? Every time it got a little humid in the room, all the satellites shut off for the whole house.
Yep.
Now, he did what was code with the ground fault outlets, but had we known that the sump pumps were going to be in there with that electrical, and we couldn't move them to the other side of that room or that space, we wouldn't have put them in. We wouldn't have designed it to go in there. Right? Those are things you talk to the builder about. You get that information. We have those discussions. Lot of things to consider. So to kind of sum it up or outline it again, network, unbelievably critical. Infrastructure, got to do it. Put it in place. Got to make it happen. Control, it is a big deal, and it has become commonplace that people have control systems of some kind. Maybe start out with a single system. Maybe it's just the lighting. Maybe it's other things, but just keep control in mind. Right.
Most systems you can start out small, so maybe we're only going to control this room or these two rooms, and you can add on to it as time goes by until you've got the whole house.
So that, and lighting for whether it's an individual room or the whole house, exterior, interior, designing a lighting system for it. Security, HVAC, cameras, doorbells, all considerations, and then of course audio and video distribution. The thing we've been doing forever that has become so a part of our everyday lives. A lot of people kind of take it for granted. There's a lot of great options, whether it's a single stereo speaker in a room, as opposed to having find a place for two speakers, or there's so many different really cool options and great sound and stuff. There are now in-wall speakers that outperform tower speakers and floor model speakers and the rest. So you no longer have to compromise performance.
That's true.
To have the convenience and the look of an in-wall speaker. I looked at some the other day where the speaker was maybe only 2.5 feet tall and relatively thin, thin part of a stud space. But they designed the grills to go from floor to ceiling, so it looks like there's a column on the wall.
It becomes a design element.
It's part of a design element,
instead of just a grill sticking.
It's unbelievable, and it's an amazing sounding speaker. And this guy was a complete audiophile, completely into it or whatever, and demanded performance at that level, and got it, and got the style and the cool look that they were looking for. So a lot of cool options. That's what we're here for. You can email us at info@thelittleguys.com. You can call us 708-754-8844. We want you to come out, check out the store. We will come to your house. We'll do a walkthrough. We'll sit down with your architect, your designer. We'll sit down with whoever's got the plans. We'll sit down with you with the plans. It's good to make an appointment for that, right?
Yes.
That you're bringing in the plans and have that discussion. Feel free to call Evie or myself anytime. We're here most of the time, and we'll answer your questions and make sure you get hooked up with the right guys to figure out the right components and the right pieces. Our team will put together a package that'll be reliable, that you'll enjoy, and then after the fact, we'll be there for you. It's not, oh, that guy's not doing that anymore, or those guys are gone, or, that kind of a thing. It's what we do. It's what we love to do, and we'll make sure that you're happy throughout the process, during the actual installation, and then beyond the sale itself. So, all right, we're the Little Guys. We want to thank everybody for tuning in.
Whatever you call it.
How about thanks for listening?
Okay.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for paying attention, and we are
out of here.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.